Hello, guys. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting book called The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, edited by Otto H. Frank and Miriam Persler, the definitive edition. Anyways, for years and years and years and years and years, I always heard about this book. It is such a famous book, and a lot of people have read it and know about it and have even written books about it. And the person who wrote it, Anne Frank, is so famous throughout the world. She is known and she is famous throughout the world. Okay, guys. So I bought this book some time ago and I decided to read it and find out what it was all about, guys. So I read it some time ago and I really liked it, despite the fact that I personally believe that this book is a bit or very overrated. Okay, but I still enjoyed reading this book. Okay, so it's a very famous book, and I like reading it, although it's very overrated, I guess so. You can see the picture of the girl who wrote the book, Anne Frank. Anyways, so what happens in this book is that it's about a young girl called Anne Frank who is Jewish, okay, and she is hiding from the horrors of the Nazi occupation. And her family and her have gone into hiding in Amsterdam, which is in the Netherlands, okay. So what happens is that Anne Frank, the author of this book, describes her life living in isolation and living in secret for 2 years or something like that. So she calls her diary her friend and gives her a name even. She calls her diary Kitty. And whenever she writes something in her diary, she says, Dear Kitty. So she treats her diary as a friend and calls it Dear Kitty and addresses her as calling her Kitty. Okay. What happens next is that she gets a present for her birthday, and that is a diary, and she confides in her diary and talks to her diary and considers her like a friend, like her diary is a friend who she's talking to and relating to and stuff like that. Okay, so it was a very good book. I enjoyed reading it. Anyways, coming back to the topic, in July 1942, 13-year-old Anne Frank and her family fled the horror of the Nazi occupation and went into hiding in an Amsterdam warehouse. Okay. Over the next 2 years, Anne Frank wrote her diary. Okay. This started in July 1942 and her diary ended in August 1945. And this happened uh, a couple of months before her 16th birthday. Okay. And that's what happened in the book. So this was such an interesting book, about how her life changes and all that she does, and how she also talks about her relationships with different boys, about how she has a crush on one or two boys in school or something like that. She also studies in school and does her homework and stuff like that. And apart from that, coming back to the main topic, she is basically Jewish, and that's what the problem is. She is Jewish, okay, and the Hitler wants to kill all the Jews because he doesn't like the Jews actually. So that's what happens in the book, guys. It was an interesting book and it was not long at all. I'm used to reading fat books, so this was hardly not that long at all, guys. So yeah. So I finally read this book after hearing about it for years and years and years and years, and it was worth the read. But as I said before, it was overrated. Anyways, the book is around 340 pages long. Okay, or 341 pages long, which is very short for me because I'm used to reading fat books. So I like this book despite the fact that it was overrated, but I still enjoyed reading it, guys. And after all these years of listening about it, I finally read the book. She confides in her diary everything that happens in her life, the crushes that she has, about her religion, about how she's Jewish, about her diary. She writes in her diary about her life and everything. So it was a pretty interesting read, actually. And this is a very, very famous book. It must be one of the most famous books in the world, despite the fact that it was overrated. Anyways, guys, hope you all